One of my favorite scenes in the Arcane series by Riot Games and Fortiche is the final confrontation between Vi and her sister Jinx at the end of Season 1. It's an amazing scene to study and explore character objectives. When I look at character objectives in a scene, I reference Judith Weston's book Directing Actors. For the actor to have something playable on screen, it's helpful to think of an action verb that directs a character to want to get something out of another character in the scene. This turns ideas and attitudes into relationships and behavior on screen, which we can see as an audience. For example, character A wants to get an apology out of character B, so one possible action verb for this objective is to accuse or to blame. This gives character A a very specific acting direction. Character B may have another action verb like to deflect or to distract, and might have the objective of getting character A to refocus on another topic instead of a confession. Another aspect of this analysis is figuring out what the emotional center of the scene is. Basically, we're asking, what is the scene about at its emotional core? If we break down a scene into smaller story beats, ideally we will see the beats building up on top of each other to reveal this emotional center. Getting back to the Arcane Season 1 finale scene, as a disclaimer, there will be spoilers for this scene and the series, so I recommend checking out Arcane Season 1 before going further. So in this faux tea party scene, Vi wakes up after being knocked out and discovers that her sister Jinx has captured her, as well as the antagonists Silco and Caitlyn. Jinx is staging an intervention that will determine the course of the rest of their lives moving forward. Everything in Season 1 has built up to this final confrontation, and the sisters' relationship is the emotional heart of the season. Before we get into character objectives, I think the emotional center of the scene rests in one of Jinx's last lines. I thought maybe you could love me like you used to, even though I'm different. When Jinx says this line to Vi after choosing to sit in the Jinx chair instead of the powder chair, it's Jinx's final confession and realization that she can't reconcile and revive her past relationship with her sister. Jinx isn't Vi's little sister Powder anymore, so one way to look at the emotional center of the scene is that it's Jinx's attempted reconciliation with her sister that fails. But at the same time, something else is happening. In the middle of this failed reconciliation, Jinx is choosing her own identity and taking ownership of who she has become without being swayed by anyone else's will. Not Vi's will, not Silco's will. It's a tragic coming of age for Jinx. So let's look at the character objectives. What does Jinx want to get out from Vi? And what does Vi want to get out of Jinx? We'll focus on these two characters even though we know Silco and Caitlyn are also in the scene. At the top of the scene when Vi wakes up, Jinx lays out an argument that it wasn't Silco who created Jinx. It was Vi who created her. It's possible that Jinx's objective here is to get Vi to realize the pain that Jinx experienced when she was Powder and got abandoned by Vi years ago before Vi went to prison. Action verbs that I thought for Jinx here are to accuse, to blame, or to condemn. This forces an apology from Vi, who calls her Powder and tells Jinx that she never meant to leave her behind. So here, Vi's action verb could be to apologize or to appease. As an objective at the story beat, she's trying to calm Jinx down, or even to get Jinx to recognize Vi's empathizing with her sister. Vi is trying to rebuild a genuine bond with her younger sister in order to get out of this tense situation. But Jinx reveals that Vi never left her. In the years since, wherever Jinx went, she was haunted by memories of her older sister. Jinx says, "When all the colors were black, you're the reason I'm still alive." It's a haunting bit of dialogue because Jinx has essentially taken Vi's apology and flipped it back onto her older sister as a way to punish her. Jinx is shaming Vi, making her feel her pain, but in a way that cuts deeper than an outright rant. One of Judith Weston's techniques includes thinking of the subtext of a story beat. And here, Jinx is telling Vi that even though Vi was physically not around, her abandonment of Jinx hurt her even more. Jinx had nothing else to give her strength. She was hanging on by a thread, but she turned Vi's absence into something that empowered her. Often I think we can achieve 2 or 3 things at the same time with story beats, especially when we look at subtext. So here I can see that Jinx is punishing and shaming Vi as action verbs, but she is also starting to reveal how she changed from Powder to Jinx. And at the same time, Jinx is revealing more of her true hurt from Vi's abandonment and saying that Vi's presence never left her. When the scene cuts to black and Jinx asks, "Are we still sisters?" Vi responds by saying, "Nothing is ever going to change that." This should be a heartfelt moment, possibly hinting at the two sisters reconciling. but it's played on a completely black screen with only audio, so we don't see the characters' faces, what they're expressing, or how they are reacting visually. But I think Jinx is baiting Vi here. Jinx wants to get a clear handle on where Vi's heart and mind are with respect to how Vi sees her sister. It's an emotional trap because of what happens next over a series of story beats. Jinx reveals the Tea Party setup along with a captured Silco and Caitlyn. Jinx tells Vi that Silco betrayed her, conveying a sense that she is truly on her own now. Jinx asks, "Where should I sit?" and it's quickly revealed that there are two marked seats, one for Powder and the other for Jinx. Then Jinx forces a choice on Vi. She hands a gun to Vi and tells her that if Vi shoots and kills Caitlyn, then Vi can have Powder back. But Vi can't bring herself to kill Caitlyn. It's an impossible choice to face. So Jinx shifts her objective here. She went from trying to get Vi to recognize her pain from being abandoned to now literally getting her sister to choose her over Caitlyn. Another way to look at this is Jinx wanting Vi to outwardly make her love for her younger sister explicitly clear, to make a confession of sisterly love and devotion. Action verbs I thought for Jinx here are to terrorize or to coerce. For Vi, action verbs at this point in the scene might be to plead, to beg, or to reason with. She wants to win Jinx over to her side. Part of what makes the scene work so well is Jinx's wavering doubts and second guessing of herself. This causes Jinx to release the gag over Silco's mouth in order to hear what he has to say as a counterpoint to everything that Vi is promising. Silco accuses Vi and claims that she will abandon Jinx again. We can see that Jinx is shaken by this, but is still in control of the situation. She tells Vi, "You wouldn't lie to me, not again." With this line of dialogue and the vocal performance, it's clear that Jinx is still harboring the hurt from being abandoned. When Silco tells Jinx that the Topsiders wanted him to betray Jinx and trade her in for his independence, he reveals he did not sell her out. He plays on her pain of being abandoned and reinforces their surrogate father-daughter bond, saying that it's only us, you're my daughter. The camera cuts to Jinx's reactions to his words, and she's visibly moved, almost to the point of shedding tears. It's interesting that Jinx reacts genuinely to Silco's confession of acceptance here, while Vi's earlier confession of sisterly love did not land as well with Jinx. I think the emotional landscape here in the subtext is that Jinx's pain from being abandoned by Vi is so deep that any confession or attempt to reconcile by Vi is not working so far. Jinx isn't Powder anymore and doesn't relate to her older sister in the same way when they were younger. Jinx is a different person now, and this reaction she gives to Silco's confession is one sign of this change. Silco accepts her and loves her as his daughter, and deep down inside, Jinx knows this but hasn't fully accepted it yet. Further on in the scene, after Caitlyn breaks free, grabs a cannon, and Jinx knocks her out, the scene takes an incredible turn when Jinx ends up killing Silco in a heated moment after he grabs a gun and points it off screen. We don't know for sure if he was aiming for Vi or Jinx, but Jinx kills him with a cannon and then realizes what she has done. Silco slowly dies and confesses to Jinx that he would never have abandoned her, that she is perfect as she is. If we get back to the emotional center of the scene, i.e., what is the scene really about at the base emotional level, I think at this story beat, Silco dying is what Jinx needed to clarify who she has become. The emotional center of the scene is about Jinx's soul. It's a cathartic climax capturing all of her pain, how she has processed it, and how she is moving forward. Silco dying was by her own hand. She killed him and took action. This action and her subsequent mourning is what she takes to move her on to the next step of her process. Up to this point in the story, other characters, including Vi and Silco, have tried to shape and define Jinx. But here, Jinx is using the actions she has caused to choose who she will now become, and in the process resolve her relationship with Vi. Because what we see next is Jinx choosing to sit in the chair marked for Jinx. Earlier, she had asked Vi to choose which seat she should sit in, either Powder or Jinx at the tea party. Then Jinx delivers her final lines. "I thought maybe you could love me like you used to, even though I'm different." It's amazing to see how the editing cuts to this profile shot of Jinx saying different, with her face partially hidden. It makes us feel more distant from her. It breaks the emotional connection we have with her as if she's drifting away from us. When we think about the emotional center of the scene again, I think part of this is Jinx trying to reconcile her past relationship with Vi, who she once was as Powder, and the new life she now has as Jinx. And Jinx continues saying this to Vi, "But you've changed too, so here's to the new us." It's a powerful use of shots here where we go from Vi's reaction shot to a farther away wide shot of Jinx sitting in the chair. As a character objective, Jinx is laying down the final punishment and blame on her sister. She's saying that they can never go back to the way they used to be. Powder is gone. Jinx doesn't need Vi to respond or to agree with this new dynamic. Jinx simply punishes her sister by moving on, removing any possibility of reconciling, at least at this point in the series. When Jinx picks up the cannon and heads toward firing the missile at the topsiders, she gives one ambiguous look, looking down at her sister, and then walks away. The camera cuts to Vi, who we see is exasperated and is reeling from the emotional and relational loss being cut off and away from her sister. It's a tragic ending filled with subtext and very rich character objectives. As a final scene in Season 1 of Arcane, it brings together many threads that have been explored over 9 episodes to a climactic and thrilling end.